From the Business Radio X studios in Woodstock, Georgia, it's time for Cherokee Business Radio.
Welcome back to Cherokee Business Radio. I'm your host, Joshua Kornitsky, professional EOS implementer, and I've got two really interesting guests here in the studio with me. But before I get started talking to Dean and Lou, I want to remind you that today's episode is brought to you in part by our community partner program, the Business Radio X Main Street Warriors, defending capitalism, promoting small business, and supporting our local community. For more information, please go to mainstreetwarriors.org. And a special note of thanks to our title sponsor for the Cherokee chapter of Main Street Warriors, Diesel David Inc. Please go check them out at dieseldavid.com. So as I said, I have two guests here in the studio with me today that I'm really excited to talk to both of them. But unlike normal interviews where it's one then the other, we're going to do this all together. So here in the studio, I've got with me Dean Nolley and Lou Melancon.
Excellent.
Doing my best.
Excellent.
And they're here to talk a whole lot of sales with us. So before we get started, Lou, let me start with you. Give us a little bit of your background so we understand why you're an expert at what you do.
Sure. I'm glad to, and thank you for asking. In the Sales Imagination Organization, what I do is training of salespeople, sales managers, business development people, telemarketers. My background is in 1973, I was a fair but not very successful disc jockey. And I married the receptionist at the radio station and decided I needed a real job. Well, I didn't have a college education. I liked college, but I didn't finish. And I got a job as a commission salesman. Didn't pay me anything. Only when I sold something did I get paid. And let me tell you, that was quite a learning experience. In the third year, I was the top salesman in the nation, and I'm very proud of that. I migrated from that into sales management. That led to marketing and market development, and that led to training. I spent a lot of time training salespeople on how to sell our products and how to market our products. And that led to working with very large accounts. So at the end of my career, I was working with 2 accounts nationally across many hundreds of locations. And we were very successful with that client. We did a good job. They liked us. We liked them. Very rewarding. So in a nutshell, that's how I spent the last 50 years. I retired in March. And in April, I said, I don't like this. I want to do something.
You don't seem retired, is all I'm going to say.
So Dean and I were talking because we had worked together. And he said, hey, listen, I want to add training into my portfolio. And I said, Dean, I've done that for years and done it very well, so I'd like to be part of it. So that got me to working with Dean.
That's fantastic.
I think it'll work.
Well, I think you said you worked together previously. How long did you work together?
I guess about 10 years.
Okay, so good, solid working relationship.
Yeah.
And the one thing with Lou that he's not saying, I saw him as a high-end services specialist, very successful, overachieving. Put him in the leadership, needed some help running Georgia. Unbelievable leader. And so he's not telling the whole story.
Well, the best leaders are usually the least boisterous about their own abilities. But Dean, tell us a little bit about your background and tell us about your working relationship before and since with Lou.
No, I appreciate that. My background, I started out with Eastman Kodak, successful career, a lot of different sales leadership. We were sitting in our starter home, me and Heidi. I would normally say we were pregnant with Alex, but you both have met Heidi. Heidi would cut me off publicly and say, I was pregnant with Alex. And as we were evaluating another promotion to go back to beautiful, cold, snowy, 186 inches a year at Rochester, New York, and I watched my wife profusely crying, I knew that it was time to leave corporate America and go out. So I went out, and my background at that point was start up at a Menlo Park. Did not have to move there. I was such a good employee of Kodak, my job was to put film out of business. Saw the digital cameras, thermal desktop printers. In the 1996 Olympics in Atlanta, Georgia, was a catalyst and the foundation to do that. So that taught me. I worked for people from Apple, Logitech, Sun Micro, SGI, Microage on the channel. And John Scully of Apple was none other than the consultant for the company.
Wow.
I saw entrepreneurial at Joshua like I'd never seen. I loved it. Well, as all good things come to an end, that PE groups were able to sell within 2 years. At that point, me and another gentleman went out and started Digital Imagination. So that's what kind of brings me to where I am now, because we started a company. What we saw is on the services side, all the service providers were avoiding digital.
Okay.
So,
well, it was new and scary, right?
Yeah, it was. So our claim to fame was mastering the Santa Claus and the Easter bunnies in the malls. So we found a way to partner with them because it didn't feel right competing with Santa Claus or Easter bunny, right?
I have to know this story.
Yeah. So plus we saw how good a relationship these mall providers had with the mall developers.
Right.
So we found a way to educate them, train them, support them, and all of a sudden, instead of you getting that Polaroid from Santa Claus and Easter Bunny, you notice you started getting the digital files and the thermal dye print. That was us.
Wow.
So we sold that successfully to Applied Graphics Technology in New York. At that point, I kind of hung out in the PE world, not running the companies, but running sales. So startups, 3, 4, 5 million, trying to go to 30, 40, 50 million. So when you look at where I am now with Sales Growth Imagination, it's like deja vu. I'm walking down memory lane is the best way to say it. So hopefully I can help business owners be smarter than I was. We learned a lot the hard way. We won a lot of business, but we outgrew our structure, Joshua. So on the loose side, what makes this fun is at the end of the day, I should have been focused on Rain Group and training, but there's so many different things that we do with sales. Go ahead.
Well, so back up, what is Rain Group?
Well, if you go to Rain Group, and we're going to let Lou walk through, but as you know, with what I do, I help companies build out sales infrastructure, get their sales sustainable, then build out the framework roadmap to help them, strategic sales playbook to help them scale.
Right.
There are people that do what I do nationally. There's so many things I'll do. If I tried to tell people, I'll lose them in about 5 seconds. So Rain Group is one of those. But what's really cool about Rain Group, it's individual-based training. So what it does for our Sales Growth Imagination, I've not been B2C, as you know. I'm B2B.
Right.
But guess what? I go into a UPS store now, husband, wife. They bought a franchise they've never sold before. Rain Group applies. You have 1, 2 salespeople is all. You now have an affordable way, and Lou's going to go through that. But what I love about it is it really broadens what we do, because anyone I touch, we now have a solution. Because my higher-end services of infrastructure management framework, that doesn't apply other than generally B2B.
Right.
Probably $5 to $50 million or plus companies.
Certainly not going to help on a small scale. So Lou, is Rain Group sales training?
It is. That's
Okay.
exactly what it is. Let me tell you how we got to it, Joshua.
Thank you.
When we sat down and talked about doing training, we said, okay, we've got to train new hires. We've got to train those who are early on in their career. Then we've got to train the old pros, the ones that teach the old dog new tricks. And then there's a lot of people now that sell or develop leads through the internet, through social media.
Don't we all know that?
Yeah, through the telephone. God bless them. So we said we're going to have to train all of those people. So we looked around at the possible training programs we could offer, and we looked at writing our own. And that's how we arrived at the Rain Group. They're an organization based out of Boston, and they do 2 things extremely well. They analyze why people buy, what caused them to buy something, what caused them to buy from that sales rep, from that company. So they analyze that, and they've developed training programs. They've got training that starts with the very basic of how do you hire the right person.
Okay.
And then once you hire the right person, how do you set them out on a path for the next month, the next 3 months, the next 6 months, the next year? In other words, they teach managers how to manage salespeople effectively.
So it's not just end user sales training, it's sales management training as well?
Yes. Okay. And Rain Group offers 70 modules.
Oh my gosh.
And I guess I should have talked about the modules so you could visualize this. Most people, when they train, will call you to a room, and 12 or 15 or 20 of you will sit down, and you'll go through a training session. And it might be one day, it might be 3 days, it could even be a week. And the people in that room might not all be in the same business. One might be in construction, one might be in engineering, one might be in a services sale. So there's not a lot of synergy in that type of group. And incidentally, for the most part, those trainings are very expensive.
Well, I didn't want to ask about cost, but I will when you finish the explanation, because I do want to understand it, and for anybody listening to have a grasp of what you're talking about financially.
That is one of the greatest things about the Rain Group. Now, you've got these 70 individual modules, 70, aimed at sales management, at sales reps, at people doing prospecting.
Right.
And the modules are packaged together in a 14-week course. And that covers your mid-range salesperson. Then we've got to focus on prospecting for your newbie that's just come in. We've got a process for the experienced sales manager. How do you do better? And for the new sales manager, what should you be focusing on? So you can take these modules in sequence or in any way you want. You have access to 70 modules, each an hour long, with tests in them, with reviews in them, with supporting materials.
Okay.
For $985 a year. A year for 70 modules for one person.
That's
per
crazy.
person.
That's incredibly, compared to what I know sales training can cost, that's an incredible value.
It is an incredible sales training program. It's phenomenal.
Is there performance metrics that are reported upstream so that anybody can see? Because anybody can sit down in front of a computer and click through and say, okay, I'm done.
You're making this easy for us. Thank
Well,
you.
I want to understand. So
Yeah, in the Rain Group, you can't do that. You can't just click through.
Okay.
You've got to watch the module to get to the validation quiz that follows each section of the module. Each module is divided into about 6 sections.
Okay.
And the scores are recorded, and they come back to me, and I can share that with Dean, and we can share that with the business owner. Tell him how his sales force is doing. It's all part of the evaluating your sales force and helping you figure out how to get them on the track you want them to run on.
it sounds like it's a really, really incredible kind of start to end system. And one of the questions, and I don't want to make it sound silly, but I know that when it comes to any type, sales is a skill, right? And when it comes to any type of skill training, there's no such thing as one and done anywhere in the universe. So if I'm a mid-career sales rep, and let's be honest, I know everything. When I'm a mid-career sales rep, there's nothing new. I'm being sarcastic, but typically they have a perception of the universe that they got this down. Are there courses and tests to help them continue to perfect their art?
I'm going to hand it over to Lou in a second on this one, but yes.
Okay.
You get into consultative selling, and we were on with a very, very large prospect yesterday, and while they have a lot of new reps coming in mid-level, they have some reps that they are now focusing on larger accounts. So consultative selling comes in. But that also ties into what we're doing with business coaching or sales coaching around these classes, because that's aligning to a scored card and a metric so that that owner can see the improvement and they can actually see the results aligning with the training that's taking place. So
Okay.
I know Lou's going to go into a lot of detail around that part.
Well, on the old pros,
The old dogs who don't want to learn the new trick, right?
If you really look at the trajectory of a successful salesman, for the first 2, 3, 4, 5 years, he's out there prospecting a lot, building his client base, and trying to build repeatable business, so that by his 5th year onwards, he tends not to do any prospecting, and he just holds on or tries to hold on to those clients. And that's maybe good for them, but it's not good for the company.
Sure.
You want the
Because
company
it's
to
got
grow.
stagnation built right into it.
So there's a couple of really challenging courses that I used to start working with the old pro, the seasoned old pro. You can't teach an old dog new tricks type of guy.
Right.
One of them is having a prospecting plan using social media, using the internet, using email the right way, not just bombing somebody with 300 emails, but how to make it effective and what to say, and then how to sell on the computer. There's a lot of selling today that's not done face-to-face. It's done over the internet using Google or Teams or something like that. And what we're finding is that when people buy, start the buying process, they've already done a lot of research online. You couldn't do that years ago. There wasn't a Google there for you to search with. There is now. So they come to you with a perspective and thinking of where your company is in the industry. Are you number 1, number 2, number 5? So we teach the guys who can't get into the accounts, new accounts, how to do it. Also, one of the things I find with experienced salesmen is they won't call on competitive accounts. You must call on competitive accounts. They've already decided to use your product. They're just buying it from somebody else.
Right.
What you want to do is talk to them about, let's say something goes wrong. I hope it doesn't go wrong, but something goes wrong with your current supplier. Yeah. And you're going to need to switch over fast. You need to have a backup strategy. So we talk to them about backup strategies. We talk to them about prospecting. We talk to them about the 6 personality types that you get in a committee sale. And
I'm laughing because committee sale is more accurate than not in some cases.
There's some people that want to make the decision all on their own. There's other people that don't want to do anything without consensus. So we teach them the 6 personality types and how to deal with each one. And those are just some examples. There's also modules on keeping and retaining accounts. Joshua, the Range Group has a tremendous training program, and I love it. I've taken the modules. I've studied them. But if you don't reinforce it, it doesn't stick. It goes in one ear and out the other. People learn something this week, and they forget it by next week.
So how do you reinforce?
That's the key. That's what we at Sales Imagination add. That's the secret sauce, if you will.
Okay.
What we do is once a week after that training session, and say there's 4 people in the session, and they do it on 4 different days at 4 different times, but once a week we all get together at a day and time, say Tuesday at 10 o'clock in the morning, and we spend an hour together. I've already looked at the module and their test scores, so I know where they're strong and where they're weak, and it allows me to sit there and talk to them individually about situations they've got, how they handled it, how they would have applied this new learning, what they thought of it, what they're going to do to reinforce it. Now, the Rain Group training reinforces last week's lesson in the new week's lesson. It's a reinforcement process, and it's a great one. So we do a lot of role plays in the coaching. We help them deal with real-world situations, and we make sure they're paying attention to the materials and they're getting the most out of it. And maybe the most important thing you do as salesman is show what's in it for them. Okay? Show them how to make more money.
I'm laughing because I spent 20 years in sales, and everything you're saying I know to be true.
Yeah, we want to show them how to make more money. We want to show them how it's easy to prospect if you do it the right way. And it's not always fun, but it's something you do.
100%. And to be fair to the great salespeople of the world, the best salespeople I have known, men or women, never stop learning, never stop refining their craft. Truthfully, it is the anomaly to have that old stick in the mud who doesn't want to continue to learn, because most of those people self-select out before it becomes their career. Because if you're going to sell for a living, you have to be serious about it. And just like any professional athlete, you have to have coaching and training in an ongoing way.
What I find is you get a lot of pushback from the experienced rep. His attitude is, I don't want to do this. I'm doing it because I have to.
Right.
And I recognize that because I've been a sales manager for so long. What I try to do with that type of person, with the Rain Group, is put them into the situation where we can involve them, where get their willing buy-in. And I use that as using them as a partial coach in the class. I would say, you've done this before. Tell them about one of your most successful sales, and we'll talk about it. So you get them involved by sharing, and once they start feeling important, they're committed.
The tide goes out.
You
the tide
bet.
comes in, and that makes great sense, and that's a fantastic, clearly hard-learned strategy for breaking down those more seasoned folks who, well, breaking down is the wrong term, for including those more seasoned folks who are more resistant.
Well, and yesterday, we were on a call, and the other part, think of this as a simulated version. It was with a decision maker, but Lou would have seen the same thing if he had tenured salespeople. We were talking about consultative selling, getting into larger accounts. It was very obvious when we asked what kind of tools will your people have to get into these accounts, they didn't have any tools. So that led into a strategic conversation around Sales Reach IO, Avenir, and KnowledgeNet. So the owner said, well, can you give us an example? Well, we had already done one where we showed how we made a connection path to one of their area franchisors.
Right.
But at the same time, the guy put us on the spot. And he said, okay, I want to do one live right now and see how it works. We pulled it up. He's like, how quickly can you get me a recap? Because we need to look at this very seriously. It was amazing, the connection path. And he's like, man, where's this been? But that's the thing that Lou's going to pick up on. And one other thing to touch on, because when I first thinking of rain, I start thinking about my college days of listening to Eddie Rabbitt, rain on the window pane.
Sure.
But in this world, rain stands for something quite different. And I wanted Lou to kind of walk through that as well. Because he taught me a lesson that I should have probably known this answer 2 years ago, and I didn't.
Yeah, RAIN is an acronym. Excuse me.
And an acronym would, be a digital watch on a dinosaur.
That's exactly right. Good comparison, Joshua. RAIN stands for rapport. That's the very first thing you've got to do is establish a conversational relationship. I'm not talking about being a suck up to somebody. I'm talking about a valid business relationship that has value for both of you, a rapport. And as you're doing that, you learn what their aspirations are. Where do they want to take the company? Where do they want to take their career? And you think about how you could help them as a sales rep do that. Then you ask them, what are their afflictions? What's holding you back? And if you don't achieve it, what happens? If you do achieve it, what happens? And then you talk to them with ideas, new ideas. R is rapport, A is affliction, and
I is
aspiration. I is ideas.
Okay.
And it's new ideas. The number one thing people say why they bought from somebody is a person brought to them a new perspective, new ideas, a new way of doing things, and really showed them it would work. It didn't have a downside. And the final thing, the N, is the new normal. What's it look like when you get there? And if you do all four of those things, you will stand head and shoulders above the other salespeople you're competing with.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a strong program. It really is. And then our coaching reinforces it. And then the training is just one of a continuum that Dean's company, Sales Imagination, offers. We help with hiring people. We help with prospecting. We help with getting your first call on key to select clients. And we train you on what to do when you get in that position.
And it sounds like you train and coach salespeople as well so that they're able to continue on when it's not at the enterprise level. Mm-hmm. Because, Dean, you had said, and I want to switch back to what we were talking about initially, you had said that often some of your engagements are at a higher level. And when you're dealing at a higher level, what is it that you do? How do you help those organizations?
Well, when you say higher level, you're talking about larger companies?
I'm presuming larger companies.
Yeah. When you're in that world, think of someone, and it's interesting because these are the folks that I try to find. They're 15, 20, 25 million. They're doing okay. They're making money.
Right.
But they're winging it. They don't care.
That seems crazy at that scale.
Well, it does, but they don't care because it's working. But now someone says, I really want to grow this. And then what you look at is they've got 18 salespeople. There's no documented process. Every rep is doing something different. They report into 3 managers. So any rep that comes in new to the company, depending on which manager they report to, is going to be how they're trained and onboarded differently than the other teams.
That seems absurd.
It seems absurd, but now let's say that manager leaves the company. New manager comes in, and they're going, what are these people doing? So, but you can't knock them because they've never dissected and gone into the details of the go-to-market strategy, the competitive benchmarking, the buyer personas. Have they mapped that out to the individual customer profiles, the ICPs? You know, that part is critical because everyone may be working hard, but what if they're doing the wrong activities that's not moving the deals forward in that funnel? What if there's been no investment at all in training, or all the training's kind of been on their company, but nothing around selling skills? So in that world, it's about mastering the sales process, documented. Every activity at each step of the funnel must be repeatable. And at that point, equally as important, you have to know that you've got those right activities. What are the predictable results, outcomes it's producing for the owner and for the company? And then at that point, you're building that into a framework, because if you're going to scale, while it's very important to master it with the current staff,
sure,
it's equal as important to have an onboarding plan. So how do you onboard without getting the right people, the right hiring, the right onboarding and training? You then have to have that program so that anyone coming in new is going to be trained and going to be mentored and managed the same way as the existing sales professionals. That's then built into a strategic roadmap. And when I say it's detailed, Joshua, there's about 65 elements of sales strategy, sales process methodology, the analytics and the metrics that you're measuring, and then the people in the sales organization.
So that's the other side of sales growth imagination.
That's where I live daily.
And how do you begin that process when someone says, okay, we're at $15 million and we're doing just fine? How do you determine whether or not they have all of that truly worked through, or if they are winging it?
Well, if they're a sales-led owner, I pray a little bit because, as you know, I was one of those myself. So in that world, you're going in and touching someone's baby. Sure. That's their blood, sweat, and tears, their heart and soul. You have to be extremely delicate. But here's the beautiful part about your question. The folks that find me are the ones that you or other trusted advisors have said, hey, these folks need help. They're struggling, or they know they need help. They reach out. So they're going backwards. They've lost some good people. They're flat in a good market. The ones we're talking about here, things are working okay. They're making money, right?
Right.
So it all begins with a full-fledged sales discovery. And I'm so thankful you asked that question, because it is probably the most important thing that I do. We come in with a discovery where it's a computerized around strategy, process, metrics, people. There, again, about 65 elements. The leader is taking it, or the owner, their leadership team, their sales leader, sales team, but also as important and maybe the most critical employees are those other employees touching customers that have nothing to do with leadership or sales. And either they're giving feedback and it's been ignored, or maybe they're not giving feedback, but it's now confidential. So maybe it's someone in shipping, sales support, customer ops, tech support. Maybe it's someone in marketing.
The frontline workers who see
it could be
the
a
real
service technician,
interactions.
an implementation. So what you're doing there, you're taking what the owner is saying, here are what I believe my issues are or aren't. You're matching that up to their leadership, then the sales organization. You're building that together, and you're saying, okay, here are the sales gaps that we have now. I go through one-on-one interviews, and it could be the entire gamut of every employee. If it's a really big company, they may say, you're going to do all the leadership and owners and sales, but we're going to do a subset of the other groups, because at some point you get to too many masses. But once you do that, you now come back and you say, okay, here are all the different issues we have. And if anyone tells you that, one, you're going to nail it up front, run and run fast.
Sure.
But at the same time, there's not a right or wrong way to start normally. So what happens is you're now prioritizing with the leadership team. Here are all the things we saw. I tried to give them my perspective based on my knowledge, but ultimately it's their decision. And there's usually a couple good paths to start. We then build that into a project management statement of work. It goes into 90IO, which I know
Piece
you're
of software
very familiar.
we both know, yeah.
And at that point, we manage to the deliverables. Now, I will give you a perspective. Everyone I've done to date has almost come back on the sales process. I just went through one, a new client, over 45 days. It's a new owner. He just bought the company and said, Dean, I need your help here because I want to reassess this because I'm going to make the right investments and I want to take this to the next level. Well, the previous owner took a lot of costs out of the company, less real estate, less people, and said, we're going to not do as many products. We're going to get more focused. But what he really did is he took a lot of costs out that increases EBITDA to sell. The new owner, so in this particular company where everyone is collaborative, right? He wants to know. Our number one focus is reassessing their go-to-market strategy, what products they're going to sell, what verticals they're going to participate in. That's where we're starting. First time I've ever seen that, but it's a good example that each one can be a little different where they need help.
Sure. Lou?
Yeah, your original question, Joshua, was, here's a company successful at $15 million. Why do they talk to you? That's a question that all salesmen should be asked because it's very important. My experience with 50 years of selling is when I contact somebody, I've done some research on them to begin with.
Right.
Know what business they're in, know what status this person has within the company. And if I'm fortunate enough to reach them, either phone, internet, regular mail, just by writing them a handwritten letter, whatever it takes to get their attention. Once I have their attention, I tell them a story. I tell them a story that's similar to their business, that what we've done for someone. I said, that's what we do. Does that sound like something you'd be interested in? And they'll generally say, tell me more, or they'll say no.
Okay, so you help them see themselves in those shoes.
Well, once you get to, I'm willing to look and listen. Once the client tells you, I'm willing to look and listen, stop. Don't sell at that point. Mm-hmm. What you do is say, well, where are you taking the company? What are your plans in your department? What is your group's goal this year? And why aren't you achieving that? What's holding you back? And that way you learn their dreams and their self-perceived holdbacks. At that point, you start taking some of your products in your mind saying, I can apply this here. You don't tell them what the product is. You tell them what the product does for them.
Sure.
Now, that applies to every salesman in every industry. But those are the things that people are generally not taught to do. And it is a process. It is the right way to do things. So if you can get your company, if you can get your salesman just to do those few things, you're going to see your sales go up. So we get them to the point where they're talking to somebody, then we tell them how to talk to them, what to talk to them about, how to ask questions, how to build rapport, how to introduce new ideas. In other words, whatever your dreams are, Mr. Customer, I'm here to try and make them come true.
Well, and back to your question, and Lou's point is dead on. As sales, I feel like I'm on double secret probation. I'm sure you both saw Animal House, right?
Yes, sir.
I feel like I'm John Belushi or Flounder or Pinto in the Delta fraternity with Dean Warmer, because on the sales side, you have to educate.
Yes.
But even when we're talking on sales, sounds salesy at times. So we have to be extremely careful. But what the discovery process does, it has nothing to do with selling. It's educational, it's questions, it's the customer's data. And you can't even give them an outcome because we don't know that. And that really speaks to, what Lou's saying. I mean, you have to be educational. And that's the one tool and the one process that's not immediately saying, oh, here's how we can help you.
Right.
You know, the greatest compliment you can give somebody, Joshua, is to listen to them. Nobody ever listens to you. Nobody just gives you 100% of their attention. If you're talking to somebody and you're asking questions, if you give them 100% of your attention, and when they say why they're not doing something or what's going wrong, and you ask them why, and you ask them why again, you ask them why again, and you dig down and you find, but you let them talk. You just guide the conversation. I learned years ago that to make somebody love you and think you're a great conversationalist, don't talk, listen.
Why?
The greatest conversationalists in the world are listeners. So these are the things that, some of these things are lost. Some of these things are not understood. Some of these things are not being taught. And with our experience and the quality of our tools and the coaching we do, I think we can help just about anybody out.
I mean, it sounds like it's a holistic system, and it sounds like it works from a small mom and pop all the way up to a company of considerable size.
It's very scalable.
Well, it does. And if you think about how we're going to help master the sales process, build that out, document it, we're going to automate it to the CRM, the right activities, the right metrics. Now we got the right proactive analytics. So you're not spreadsheet managing retroactively, you're proactive with lifetime data. We can do all of that, but you're still going to be onboarding people, and you're going to need more of your existing people. That's where this RAIN group fits so nicely. And, you know, that the whole people part makes sense because we already had tools, as you know, like OMG. And I know the last time I said that, someone went, oh, my God. And I'm like, no, it's Objective Management Group. What's beautiful about there's about 21 characteristics. It's a people assessment.
Right.
Specific to skill sets. It's not personality. It's not behavior. It's not
so that sets it apart
psychology.
Right there.
Well, you get into tactical.
Right.
You get into sales DNA. That's the heart and soul of it, and the will to sell. But the reason I say the DNA is the heart and soul is you might be really good at selling high-end construction equipment, but you might not be so good selling a SaaS model. Or if you think about Gen Y, Gen Z, they're going to be a lot more excited selling a SaaS model than going out into a construction site, right? So the key is making sure we're not just hiring and helping them develop existing people or hire new people. We're trying to make sure they have the right people selling the right product or services. And in a lot of accounts we're in, they're dynamically changing their business. So they may add a new product or service that their go-to-market might be more of a SaaS model, but yet everything else is direct selling.
Right, so it's a complete change.
Yeah, so we're trying to match up that part. So we can help you on the hiring, we can help you on the assessment, but what's beautiful about OMG, and there's a couple others like PXT, TTI, but OMG is really on that skill set. That helps us with the existing salespeople as well, which now what RAIN Group, Sales Acceleration, one of the tool sets I use, as you know, and OMG have done collectively, they have matched the characteristics of these 21 characteristics of OMG.
Right.
And they've matched it to the modules of RAIN Group of how to train to those skill sets. So now Lou has almost not only secret sauce, he has an unfair advantage now
it's a blueprint for success for the organization. So do you start with the Objective Management Group assessment? Is that OMG?
Right.
Do you start with that?
You would start with that. Well, let me tell you where you start. You start building out the job description,
right,
and the skill sets you need for that role. You then work with OMG to build the assessment around that. So each candidate that you're interviewing for a new role are taking that assessment. And then for existing people, they're taking it so that can then help us then build the curriculum. You're onboarding new employees with training and other onboarding. With existing people, it's how you're going to train them, how you're going to manage them. And each person is going to be a little different. So the beautiful part is with customizing some of these modules, you may tweak that differently for existing reps, and or if someone's selling, say, down the street more tactical, what you're going to train them versus the person on, say, major or larger companies. That may be more consultative selling. But the nice part is it gives us that blueprint. But it kind of ties together the whole element of hiring the right people, making sure you're onboarding them, and when they're onboarded, making sure you're still putting the training and the development. But this is also helping the managers have the right tools to better lead these teams as well.
Sure. Lou?
Yeah, I wanted to talk about the sequence because I think it's very important.
That's what I was trying to get to as well, because it while it sounds like it's a holistic system, I would also want to understand, am I able to go at my own pace with this as the business owner? Because it's a lot, guys. It's a lot.
Well, let's say you're the business owner and you're the person doing the recruiting and the interviewing and the hiring. I've yet to meet a natural, somebody that naturally picks the right candidate every time.
They all think they do.
Well, a lot of them just flip a coin saying, I'll give this person a shot. I think my gut tells me. And what they need to do, instead of doing that, is they need to have education as to proper interview techniques. They should interview the person at least 3 times, not just once. Don't hire on the first interview.
Right.
Should have multiple people in the company interview them and get their impressions. Even other salespeople. Now, once you do that, the next thing you want to do before you extend an offer is you want to have them tested. There are testing packages and programs through OMG that are going to give you a good feeling of whether you should or should not hire this person. He's a fit or he's not a fit for your business.
That's a good idea.
Okay, now what you're doing is you're spreading the risk and you're learning a lot more about the person. Now, once you do bring them on board, you know their strengths and their weaknesses. If we're consulting with you, we'll take that information and say, here's what you got. Here's the program we recommend you put them through. Here's how we recommend you manage them. Here's the management strategy or training plan or 1-year plan that you should put this person on. We're going to do a very focused on the goal. What's the end result we're looking for? And everything we're going to do from hiring to getting that person there is the sequence of what Dean is delivering.
And I'll give you a live example. We were in a recent meeting, and there's existing salespeople. So they just hire everyone the same today.
Okay.
But what they've realized is some of the people, they need to be business development. So they're going to be on the phone, more generating. Others are going to be in the field face-to-face. Well, this allows us to, as they're building that model out, reassess their current people and try to get the right people in the right seat, which I know you know a lot about. But we're really trying to master that. But as important, let's say everyone today really fits outside sales, face-to-face.
Okay.
That means we now will be hiring and making sure we're getting people with the right skill set that fit the business development role. So with existing clients, depending on where they are with their different models, that's how you can start having a little bit of fun with really helping them. And most importantly, leveraging their good people, but they might wind up in a different role than they are today.
Well, but you've already explained how you're able to help the clients understand the strong skill sets rather than just the individual personality profile, so that you can make sure that wherever those individuals end up is the right place for them. Right. So it's not just, it's convenient for me to put this person here. It's that this person fits better here than here. Maybe they were born for inside sales versus on the road, or the examples you were given of large technology versus small technology.
I'll give you an example how things have changed. Years ago, the doorbell at my house would ring, and it was the Fuller Brush Man. Or
that was a few years ago.
It was a few years ago.
1938, by the way.
It was in the 50s. Or an encyclopedia salesman would come to the door. And that was the way they sold. Well, when I started selling, basically they gave me a territory and say, go get them, Tiger.
Right.
Just go make direct sales calls, and I could. Not everybody would see me, but a lot of people would sit down and talk to me face to face, and they were in their office. Today, there's a whole bunch of people that are not in their office.
There's no such thing as an office for some people.
Yeah.
And that's not a criticism. That's just fact.
Well,
that you've got to be able to reach people where they are.
And this is something that most sales managers who have been doing it for a while don't have a skill to do. They're not used to, they weren't brought up doing virtual selling, or at least your initial appointment virtually. Right. So that's another thing that we teach, Josh.
It sounds like it's comprehensive, and it sounds like it scales from just getting started out of the garage all the way up to the boardroom of the big company.
Well, it's critical, because think about if people didn't do this, and they're hiring what they think are good people. They might be great salespeople, but now you have them in the wrong role. You probably have them in the wrong territory. You may be paying them significantly more than you would have paid them in the other role, right, both base salary and compensation. So now you're realizing they're in the wrong role, so you're going to go change their world. Ken Blanchard, move my cheese. Well, you're moving their house.
Right.
You're probably going to lose that sales professional. So we can help you better plan for that, so that from day one you're getting the right people for the role. You're able to affordably pay them for the job they're doing and align it to what they want to do and where they're happy.
Makes sense. Lou, do you have anything you wanted to add?
A concluding remark.
Fair enough.
It is very gratifying to be able to help a company achieve a company, an owner, achieve his dreams and help get him on the right path.
I agree.
And it's just a wonderful feeling.
So in EOS, we teach people about vision and being aligned to the founder or founder's vision. And, it's not just the vision of where they want the organization to go. You also have to take into consideration the vision of the individuals who work for you and what they want out of it. And it sounds like the training that you offer through Rain Group, it sounds like the assessments that you offer will help better align the people to the organization to make sure that in their daily life, because no matter how strong a leader you are, if you don't have people that enjoy doing what they do, you're not going to achieve anybody's vision or goal. And it sounds like it's a very, it's a by the numbers to a degree approach, but it's also a very thoughtful approach that considers the humans that are involved to make sure that there's a destination for them to arrive at.
Well, and from an overall perspective for Sales Growth Imagination, I know we already have the secret sauce on the full sales discovery.
Right.
That is the right approach. Now, with the training and having, as I call him, Sweet Lou, that way there I don't have to worry about spelling or pronouncing his last name, as I've done that incorrectly many times. We now have a way to help everyone. I couldn't help that UPS store owner and his wife, or owner and her husband. We couldn't help companies with one sales rep affordably. We could help them. So this really rounds it out. So I kind of look at this as akin to the full sales discovery. This training is the two areas that we are really focused on.
So 2 last questions for both of you. Question number 1 for both of you. Anybody who has spent the time to listen and understand what we've discussed today, what's something you want them to take away from this conversation to know what's possible?
I'll take that one. I want them to be comfortable and trusting to call to have a conversation.
Okay.
It'll be just that. There won't be any selling. It'll be a conversation.
Well, and I think you've both gone a long way to proving that, because you've educated me and the listeners today, and at no point did anybody try to close on anything. It was just sharing information and sharing the approach, because I think that being fair and objective, you have to, as you both have said, you have to educate first. Second question, how do people get in touch with you guys?
Sales Growth Imagination at gmail.com.
Okay.
And 404-307-1841 is my cell.
Okay. I will have that information published when we get the show pushed out to the platforms. I can't thank you both enough. Lou Melancon,
Yes.
try to get it right, and Dean Nolley, both of Sales Growth Imagination here in Georgia, but with far-reaching opportunities to help. So please don't hesitate to reach out. We'll have that information available for anybody that wants to reach you guys. Thank you both for joining me today.
Hey, thanks so much for having us.
And I just do want to remind everybody that today's episode was brought to you in part by the Community Partner Program, the Business Radio X Main Street Warriors, defending capitalism, promoting small business, and supporting our local community. For more information, please go to mainstreetwarriors.org. And a special note of thanks to our title sponsor for the Cherokee chapter of Main Street Warriors, Diesel David Inc. Please check them out at dieseldavid.com. I am Joshua Kornitsky, professional implementer of the Entrepreneurial Operating System, and your host here on Cherokee Business Radio. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time.